As calls for Keir Starmer to resign grow louder, is his grip on number 10 now visibly slipping, with every reshuffle and resignation feeding the sense that his authority is draining away? And behind the scenes, is Labour already auditioning a new leader, testing names and messages in private, while insisting in public that the Prime Minister's position remains secure? As Starmer's crisis deepens after bruising local results and cabinet shocks, is the party quietly shifting from how do we help him recover, to who should replace him if he can't? So who actually stands a chance of replacing Starmer, and are we watching the opening moves of a Labour power war that could decide Britain's next Prime Minister? With Keir Starmer's leadership visibly wobbling, Labour now appears to be looking seriously at who might replace him if the current crisis becomes unsustainable. A run of bruising local election losses and scandals that forced out key allies has left Starmer facing a slow-burn rebellion, with restive MPs openly questioning his direction. On May 14th, Health Secretary Wes Streeting quit the cabinet and called for a new direction, turning what had been whispers about a reset into a very public challenge. Streeting argued that Labour now needs bigger solutions than the current leadership is offering, framing his resignation as a protest against what he sees as timid policymaking. Starmer has refused to step down, warning that forcing out a sitting Prime Minister would plunge both the country and the party into chaos at a precarious economic moment. Amid the turmoil, new and familiar names are edging into the frame, with factions across Labour quietly rallying behind potential successors. So who is really lining up, and what kind of Prime Minister might each of them try to be if they get the keys to Downing Street? Wes Streeting is now widely seen as Labour's strongest centrist contender after his cabinet resignation, instantly vaulting to the top of many bookmakers' lists. A self-described admirer of Tony Blair's political model, he favours pro-business messages and reform-heavy public service agendas that appeal to swing voters. Labour's left accuses his camp of dragging the party too far to the right, warning a Streeting leadership would sideline traditional socialist priorities. He supports NHS reforms that include deeper private sector participation, arguing that ideology should not block solutions to chronic waiting lists. Streeting has frequently clashed in public with striking healthcare workers and trade unions, which could make union backing a key battleground in any contest. His resignation has immediately intensified speculation over looming Labour leadership war, with supporters insisting the party needs his boldness at the top. Allies are pushing for a broad leadership contest featuring multiple serious candidates rather than a coronation, hoping Streeting can emerge from a crowded field. Backers describe him as a sharp communicator with long-standing leadership ambitions, someone who has been quietly preparing for this moment for years. Andy Burnham is seen by many inside and outside the party as Labour's most popular potential successor to Keir Starmer. Burnham presents himself as a pragmatic Labour moderniser, but one rooted firmly in northern, working-class priorities. At the heart of his pitch is a vow to take the Manchester model national, using his record as Metro Mayor to argue for devolved power, stronger city region leadership. Burnham is openly critical of what he calls out-of-touch Westminster politics, casting himself as a leader who is closer to everyday life than London elites. Economically, he emphasises investment-led growth over harsh austerity, arguing for better public transport, serious housing reform, and long-term funding for local services. On health, he signals firm support for the NHS as a publicly owned service, while focusing on practical issues like access, waiting times, and the crisis in social care. Politically, Burnham is selling himself as the only figure who can genuinely reunite Labour's left, soft left and centrists behind a single project. And his loyalists present him as an experienced former cabinet minister and Metro Mayor, who has already been battle-tested in government and City Hall. Angela Rayner has built her political brand through the trade unions and direct, working-class messaging that resonates far beyond Westminster. Her style often contrasts sharply with Starmer's lawyerly caution, giving some voters a sense of authenticity and plain speaking they feel is missing at the top. She resigned from government after a row over tax and second home arrangements, a saga that temporarily stalled her leadership prospects. Britain's tax authority later cleared her of deliberate wrongdoing, a finding her supporters say removes the biggest obstacle to a future leadership bid. Many in the party's left and grassroots now believe her ambitions could revive, especially if members want a leader who sounds like them. She still enjoys strong support across Labour's traditional left-wing base, including activists who feel sidelined under Starmer. Analysts describe her image as distinctly working-class and relatable, an asset in red wall seats where Labour has struggled to reconnect. Ed Miliband currently oversees the government's energy and climate agenda, giving him a key role in Britain's transition to net zero. He previously led Labour into the 2015 election, suffering a heavy defeat that helped set the stage for the Brexit and Corbyn years. That loss unleashed years of internal turmoil, and some in the party still link his leadership to the instability that followed. Miliband remains a strong advocate of bold net zero and clean energy policies, arguing they are central to Britain's future prosperity. A number of Labour figures still value his experience, especially as global crises stack up and energy security rises to the top of the agenda. But critics say the memory of his 2015 defeat has permanently damaged his public credibility as a potential Prime Minister. Any fresh leadership bid from him could reopen deep ideological fault lines inside Labour, reviving old battles between centrist and left factions. For now, he remains more of an outsider candidate in leadership gossip, present in the conversation, but not the obvious frontrunner. Alastair Cons, a 46-year-old ex-soldier who entered Parliament in 2024, is seen by some as a charismatic rising star but remains largely untested at the highest level. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper is widely viewed as a safe pair of hands with deep experience, but she has stayed publicly coy about any desire to challenge for the top job. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's name is also in the mix, yet those close to her say she has shown little appetite to launch a leadership bid in the middle of a volatile moment. Polls currently rate Keir Starmer as one of Britain's most unpopular modern prime ministers, weighed down by economic stagnation, squeezed wages, and a sense of stalled momentum. Yet more than 100 Labour MPs have signed a letter backing him to stay on as leader and prime minister, arguing that a midterm coup would hand ammunition to the Conservatives. Party rules mean any formal challenger needs public nominations from at least 20% of Labour MPs, so protest letters are not enough on their own to force a contest. Some MPs privately fear that launching a bruising civil war now could spook financial markets and confuse voters, turning a leadership fight into a self-inflicted wound just as Labour is trying to govern.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.